G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. It's Tuesday and it's a few days away from July, which means the July international tests are coming this weekend. And yes, things are already in dumpster fire. As you might know, the All Blacks camp is, oh man, the All Blacks are not looking very good. And with their schedule coming up, it's gonna be looking like their 100% win rate's gonna go out of the window for 2022 rather quickly. And yeah, we have Wallabies, England, New Zealand, Ireland, and we got South Africa, Wales, and Scotland versus Argentina this weekend. So let's get cracking with some of the news. So All Blacks camp, like I just mentioned, already in dumpster fire. COVID outbreak all over the place. The coaching staff are out. A lot of the players are out as well as a result of the COVID. So just to give you an idea, the latest person that's tested positive is Will Jordan. This is an ongoing issue in the All Blacks camp last week. So Will Jordan is the latest person. It looked like to me a lot of the Crusaders players were now partying with Sir Fozzie. And maybe no, that's not the case. But nobody knows exactly what the case is. But a lot of the Crusaders players are positive. So Will Jordan's out. David Havili, Jack Goodhue are both out. So that's like a huge part of the All Blacks team, especially Jordan and Havili are expected to be in the starting position for the All Blacks. All these guys are out and not able to play. As a result, Brandon Eno gets called up into the squad to fill the to cover the wing and midfield position. Also in the coaching staff side, Ian Foster, Sir Fozzie, John Plumtree, and Scott McLeod are all out. The key coaching staff are all out. As a result, the New Zealand has called up Joe Schmidt to cover the All Blacks training this week. So Joe Schmidt, he's retired. In one of the interviews, because he's been doing like a lot of helping for the Blues, like assistant coaching for the Blues, and also he's paid as a selector for the All Blacks, so he's not completely out of the loop for the All Blacks or in rugby, but he's technically retired from full-time coaching. And he was at the breakdown like a few weeks ago where he talked about the design. He gets the butterflies, he gets the excitement when he sees when he watches rugby and he wants to get himself out there to be a coach again. And that dream, that retirement really didn't go very long for him. So he's called back into the All Blacks camp, as basically going to be the lead coach for the All Blacks for at least this week. So he's going to be filling in for the All Blacks training on Tuesday and Thursday. So today and on Thursday, which from my understanding are the team run sessions, right? So basically what this tells me is that the Blues backline is most likely going to be starting for this game. So we're probably going to see RTS starting at 12 instead of a Quinn Tupaia. I'll be very surprised if they put Tupaia in at 12. So most likely they're probably gonna put in RTS at 12 at this stage and having Rico at 13. So pretty much gonna be a very Blues heavy lineup, which I'm very keen to see, especially with Joe Schmidt who worked with all these players in the Blues for the whole season. I just can't see him adding much value having Quinn Tupaia at 12, trying to work somebody that he's never worked before to fill in a position for the All Blacks at 12 position. So I'm pretty confident. I'm like 80% confident that it's going to be RTS starting at 12 because Schmidt is filling in for the training runs basically for this week. Also the news as well, Richie Mo'unga is out with a stomach bug, so he is not going to be playing. So Beauden Barrett will definitely be starting at 10 and Richie Mo'unga won't be on the bench, which means Parafeta most likely going to be on the bench. So yeah, it's pretty, I'm like, again, this basically pigeonholes the Blues backline heavily in the starting spots and the bench. So I would not be surprised to see a lot of the Blues backline in this coming up weekend in terms of a selection announcement. For the Irish side, they have been pretty quiet when they enter New Zealand. They kind of just like got into the country and then just went away somewhere and, you know, kept to themselves. Mark Hansen is reportedly the only person that tested positive so far for the Irish side. Yeah, so he's not going to be playing this weekend. As far as so far, there might be more people coming out positive because you know how these things goes. But the biggest thing is the Ireland has a game on Wednesday against the Maori All Blacks, and yeah, I'm not sure how. I'll be very surprised if they're just actually gonna play anybody that they want to play this weekend on Wednesday. So I will probably be expecting like which is tomorrow actually. Haven't seen that. Maybe they'll announce the team. I'll probably would be not be. I'll probably won't be expecting any of the starting players to be playing on Wednesday just before the Eden Park showdown. So this is actually coming back a really bad timing for the All Blacks. They almost jinxed themselves. They had this advertising campaign by some of their, you know, punters, basically taunting the Irish. 0 wins in New Zealand. You think the flight was long? You're 28 years unbeaten at Eden Park, and you know these, and then you know some things like there's 4 Kiwis in your team. Maybe that'll help. You know, this is maybe a little bit, you know, bad timing with this advertising as all this COVID stuff came out literally like a day later after all these taunts gone out. So yeah, it's that 28-year unbeaten streak is looking a little bit shaky. Yeah, and so yeah, not sure how bad things are gonna get. There's still 4 days before the test. There could be more COVID cases coming out, you know, as the team's been training and living together. So who knows? There may be like even more players coming in positive than tomorrow or the day after, and then more changes have to be made. And next thing you know, the unbeaten streak is gone. Yeah, and not to mention the All Blacks are pretty brutal. First 5 games of the season, so they got Irish for 3 games, and then the first round of Rugby Championship, they'll be going to South Africa to play 2 tests in South Africa back to back. Against the Springboks, so that's going to be a brutal tour as well. So the All Blacks are looking at basically like 5 games, and they could be looking at, you know, a couple of losses already going into the year before anything is even started, right? Before they even get the balls rolling. So like we just mentioned, the Irish side also got hit a bit. Mac Hansen, he's an Aussie guy who plays really well for the Irish side, and yeah, he's out with COVID as well. So now moving to Australia, the England-Australia Test Series, 3 Test Series also coming up. The first game this weekend, they made it a change to the cups. They used to be called the Cook's Cup, Captain James Cook. And they obviously nowadays everything is offensive, so they changed the name. And instead of, you know, this is something that I don't really like, to be honest. I have to say something about this. If you're gonna change the name, make it like neutral, like call it the Up and Down Under Cup, or call it like, you know, the White and Gold Cup or whatever, right? Make it something neutral. But they just had to bring politics into these things. So the cup is named after one of the Ella, one of the Ella brothers. He is Mark Ella. He was a really brilliant player for the Wallabies, and Mobbs, who was an English player that scored like the first try against Australia in like the 1909 or 1908, the first time Australia played England, and he died in World War One. So basically, instead of just naming the cup with a neutral name, something that I kind of enjoy, like the Freedom Cup between South Africa and New Zealand, just something neutral that everyone that no one's gonna get offended. They have to score political points. You know, the richest, the most spoiled people have to score political points with everything, right? Like, I just like, you know, you have to put Mark Ellis' name on it, and sure, he is a legend, but the only reason his name's on it, even by your, like, literally by your report, is because he's Aboriginal. Like, you're literally just racial profiling this guy for political points. And that's the thing. If you actually select this, yeah, I don't want to go into it, but it's just, I think it's just really like really poor. Like, you just putting you're like putting people's name in it because of their race. Anyway, so that's been done. The Wallabies also having some injury issues going into this game. The Tongan Thor is not expected to play at least the first test. I think he has an ankle injury or knee injury. I'm not 100% sure what. I can't remember exactly what happened to him, but he has a bit of injury. As a result, the backup, one of the backup props, Harry Johnson Holmes, he's probably not going to be playing, to be honest. Also has an Achilles issue. So as a result, Sam Talakai's get caught into the group, and also the what's his name? One of the Wallabies guy gets caught in as well. Yeah, so what's his name? Sam Talakai gets caught in. He's never played for the Wallabies before, gets caught in. As a result, oh yeah, here it is. Ned Hannigan gets also caught in for the Wallabies as a filler for potential. Also gets caught in. I was actually surprised he's not selected in the first place, to be really frank. As Jet Holloway is in doubt for the game due to a calf issue. So Jet, I actually thought Ned Hannigan should have been selected over Jet in the first place, to be honest. So yeah, good to see Ned back. He was in Japan and he came back and played like the last bit of the season for the Waratahs, and I was pretty impressed by his performance, to be honest. I thought he was just fine. Did everything, wasn't many mistakes, and yeah, I thought should have been selected. But anyway, so there's quite a bit of social media stuff going on as well in the background between the two teams. So apparently there's a lot of communications between the players across the teams. So there's a thing where Eddie Jones is expecting kind of banter going on. He had a bit of a banter with Cheika in the past, but at the moment, Michael Cheika actually came out and said he's like supports Eddie. And we had like George Gregan coming out saying he supports Eddie, thinks Eddie's going to turn England around. Yeah, I know. I'm surprised too. And apparently, it's unlike, previous times where there's a lot of like, slant, like, bad banter going on. Like, somehow it's all like good banter. Nick White wants to invite Eddie Jones to dinner and pick his brains, apparently. So nobody wants to say anything bad anymore. What happened to Eddie Jones calling all the Australian players, what did he call them? Everyone has like inferiority syndrome against English. What happened to that? He said that in November last year, and everybody's forgotten, and now everybody's kissing his butt. Anyway, sorry, Dad. Sorry, Dad. Don't get upset. So anyway, so apparently, more importantly, Simon Karevi has been in regular contact with Eddie Jones to receive coaching, because he did play in Japan. They kind of worked together in Japan. In the Suntory Sun Goliath. So yeah, it's interesting how these players are all like talking to each other. And then also reportedly that at the end here, that Johnny May is in doubt due to COVID as well. So a lot of COVID going on all of a sudden in these international test teams. Anyway, there's another thing that came out. I saw apparently Quade Cooper and Marcus Smith has been DMing each other. Yeah, and it's not that kind of, what do you call it? Not the kind of like, cucumbers or anything like that. None of that's been texted around. Apparently two players has been, sharing experience. Quade and basically Mark Smith came out and kind of like reviewed that Quade has helped him a lot. Quade like gave a lot of tips on Mark Smith on how he analyzes the situation in the field. The two players had a nice chat about, what their experiences are. With Quade, he's probably got a lot more to offer for Marcus, being someone who's like 10 years older than Marcus, and with a world of experience. And Marcus just kind of starting in international rugby. Marcus only debuted July last year for England. So yeah, this is really interesting to see two fly halves just having a nice all exchange of experience going on here. Yeah, what's going on? You're not supposed to tell people that, Quade. God, especially in English. Anyway, so there's a lot of weird stuff going on between Australia and England at the moment. So next up, as I kind of mentioned about this, kind of goes to like both ways a little bit. Like a lot of these, sometimes you wonder why, like England rugby as well, super woke. If you watch any of the England matches, people taking knees, stands for racism, like they have like Ukrainian flags, all that stuff. Like that's good. That's really good stuff that you should be doing. But it's almost like, yeah, like why are you, so up in arms about all this stuff is apparently because like all this stuff that like every time you watch an England test match, you see like they do this thing where they stand up for racism. Apparently, the club has a huge like history of racism in like a culture of racism inside the club. Yeah, like the England Rugby Football Club. So like this one of the England players, Luther Burrell, I'm not familiar with him, basically went on the podcast and just told all these stories about all this racist stuff that people used to say to him in the change room. I'm not gonna read into, like, you can go read this article yourself. I don't want to talk about some of the stuff that's like pretty bad, like, you know, basically calling him the N-word. A lot of the stuff that's pretty bad. I don't actually want to talk about it. Just reading about it's a bit upsetting, to be honest. So you can go read it yourself if you're interested. But yeah, this England has a culture of racism. Sometimes, you know, you wonder about these things. Why are these most wealthiest people in the world constantly trying to show the world how woke they are? Maybe that's why. You know, maybe they're hiding stuff in the back, you know, in the back. So yeah, that's pretty bad stuff. And also, this, just to follow up on that, Sam Burgess, he also came out and slammed England rugby about some of the culture issues at England. So he went to a podcast and basically talked about his experience at England rugby. He had a short stint at England rugby where he played like centre under Stuart Lancaster, and he basically said there's like a culture in England rugby where everybody's like envious of each other and nobody wants others to succeed. So he thinks that people don't want other people to succeed, and it's like the older players don't want people to succeed, the newer players don't want other players to succeed ahead of them. So he finds that really like weird in English rugby, because it's not really like that from what he's worked with in other parts, other sports like in rugby league. So for him it's really weird, because he thinks, you know, they're all like your countrymen. Why is everyone so, you know, negative about other people, so like envious of, you know, their own peers? And he's sort of like talked about his experience there. So yeah, again, England rugby has a lot of these entrenched issues there, and then you can see why. Like immediately, every week you see like Clive Woodward goes on to, you know, the Daily Mail and writes these articles that slams Jones. Sometimes he has a point. Sometimes he seems to be just slamming Eddie Jones for the sake of clickbait, almost. Yeah, he's basically like came out last week as well, like slamming Eddie Jones. You know, he slammed not just Eddie Jones. He slammed the England rugby for allowing the Barbarians to do anything they want at Twickenham. Apparently that's a crime, according to Clive Woodward. You're not allowed to invite a Barbarian team to come play at Twickenham. Like, how dare you? Oh, especially when you lose, how dare you, right? Like, it's just so stupid. Like, he literally said, like, can you imagine New Zealand or South Africa letting Barbarian team come to Auckland or Pretoria and take the mickey? I can actually. I wouldn't. I don't think it's that much of an issue. And then he's also like trying to tell the RFU to appoint a director of rugby. Maybe he wants that job. But yeah, like it literally, I find this so like interesting how Burgess does this interview, talks about the toxic culture, talks about how the older players, older generation don't want new people to succeed. And then immediately I read the article, you know, Clive Woodward coming out and just being super toxic, like super like, you know, negative about everything in the rugby, in England rugby. Exactly, like literally doing word for word what Burgess has told everyone, is exposed England rugby is about. Like, you know, there's just, yeah, I find that like, yeah, I'm not surprised. Like, you know, Clive Woodward, he probably started this whole culture after he won the Rugby World Cup, right? Like, he doesn't want anyone else to win the Rugby World Cup anymore, because he can be the only one that ever wins the World Cup for England. You know, that's probably why he does all these negative articles and constantly slams everybody in the England team. Yeah, anyway. Next up, Noah Lolesio in the last match of Blues against the Blues for the Brumbies in the semi-finals. he did a drop goal in like the last second. They got charged down. Last second, like 30 seconds left in the game. There's a bit of criticism about this because it wasn't really in a good position, to be honest. I thought it was the team. I thought the team like rushed the decision to do a drop goal. So he kind of came out, made this interview like talking about how, you know, he feels sorry about that. Felt like he let the team down. Just one advice, Noah: don't go onto these interviews talk about this sort of shit. Okay? If you ever watch my videos, don't watch my videos. Don't watch the critics. Just keep your head down and do your job. You don't need to go out and apologize for anything, because yeah, it's just, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to show like you're owning up to things, but mate, like, you're a professional athlete. A lot of these things gonna happen in the future. This is not gonna be the only time you're gonna get charged on a drop goal, and you don't have to apologize to anybody. Just carry on. Honestly, mate, no matter what people say, just carry on. It's part of your job. It happens to everybody. There's no need for you to overly apologetic about any of these things ever. All right? So, Noah, if you ever get to see this, if someone wants to, yeah, that's my advice. Don't do these sort of articles. It's not worth it, and it's part of your job. Don't ever apologize for doing your job, mate. So next thing up, finally the South Africa now. So South Africa is finally going to allow the full capacity into the stadiums. So the Currie Cup final coming up on Saturday will be set to full capacity. Kind of stupid actually. So they had like half capacity when the URC finals was played in where was it played? In Cape Town. Yeah, it was played in Cape Town. And instead of, 50% capacity, right? Instead of like spreading everyone around the stadium with gaps between people, they just packed everyone into the same sections and left the entire top half of the stadium empty, right? Like there's no social distancing at all. The 50% capacity is literally pointless. They just packed everyone shoulder to shoulders in the bottom section of the stadium and left the empty seats above. Like it was just like pointless. So yeah, finally the government's kind of recognized this and just went, all right, we're going to get rid of the restrictions and have full capacity for South African rugby, which would be really good. It would be good to have a full crowd for a Springboks All Blacks death match. Anyway, I'm excited. Next up, so yeah, obviously Wales is going to be playing South Africa this weekend. Pivacc came out and set an extremely low bar for Wales against South Africa. They basically came out, they had a pretty terrible run in Six Nations this year. They lost to Italy in the final round at home, so that's pretty embarrassing. They came out to kind of like, yeah. Anyway, Pivacc came out to South Africa with a really low bar set for the team. He basically said if they can hold South Africa to one try, like they did against France, they will be pretty pleased. So yeah, considering the Springboks don't really score that many tries, they do a lot of goal kicking and play for territory a lot. To hold the South Africans to one try, it's a very, very low bar. If this was against the All Blacks, holding the All Blacks to one try, I would say, yeah, that's a difficult task. But just the style the Springboks play with a lot of penalty goals, only players that you have to kind of work on is like the set piece more. So you're basically saying you're just going to have make sure that they don't score more tries, essentially. Yeah, and maybe like shut down Mapimpi from getting the ball from a high ball or something. Yeah, really low bar. Really, really low bar for the Welsh. So, yeah. Anyway, next up, we've got, a bit more bad news. I'm really disappointed about this news. Pivacc du Toit is suffering from a shoulder injury, so he won't be available for this weekend's game. He is probably going to be able to play for the second and third test against Wales, But yeah, he already missed out most of last year. Hopefully, I'd rather him not play against Wales at all and get 100% to play New Zealand than rush back to play Wales in the second test and then get another injury and he's out for the rest of the year. So it's fine. I think it's Wales. Come on. All they want to do is stop you from scoring more than one tries. I'm sure you can beat Wales without Pieter-Steph du Toit. You need this guy for the All Blacks, and really I hope just give him a bit of break. Don't rush him back. Please don't rush him back, the Springboks. Next up, Japan played Uruguay in another test match on the weekend. This time with a bigger win. 43 points to 7 over Uruguay. The week before, they beat Uruguay 34 points to 15. So this is their preparation going into playing France. Yeah. So Japan, another good show, a better show off this weekend against Uruguay. Next up, there's some alleged bullying going on with the France World Cup organizing team. So apparently a lot of staff were verbally abused and being overworked. So this is like an official investigation going on about whether or not this is happening. So yeah, World Rugby is like not happy. It's basically like the unions are looking into this stuff right now. There's a big like news going on in France about how people are being overworked for the Rugby World Cup coming up next year. Next up, so Spain, this whole saga about Spain going on, trying to get themselves back into the Rugby World Cup after they got disqualified for the second World Cup in a row, where one of the props, Gavin Van der Berg was basically caught faking visa documents to show that he had stayed in. So basically, the residency law is that they have to stay in like the country without leaving for like a certain period of time, and he failed to do so. Essentially, he went to Spain and then he just like traveled around Europe, posting all this Instagram photos of himself traveling, and then basically World Rugby's like, hey, it doesn't look like you've been living in Spain without for long enough to qualify for the World Cup. And as a result, Spain got deducted points in their qualifying rounds, and as a result, they basically, as the deduction of points, they no longer qualify for the World Cup. So Spain has tried to propose new evidence to, revert the decision. And the new evidence they provide is basically they're trying to, the latest attempt for the Spanish team is basically saying that, hey, this player changed all these documents. We had no idea this was happening. So it's really not our fault that he was in the team. We were misled. We were the victims. This is basically their new defense. They tried to propose this like last week to World Rugby, and World Rugby basically denied denied another hearing to revisit this issue. So basically, here's some key points here. Basically, there will only be another there's only going to be an appeal under 3 circumstances. So either the decision was wrong, so you have evidence that shows that the decision was wrong in the first place, or that it's the best interest of justice to overturn the decision, which means like, some kind of injustice has been done to you, that you have to prove that there's like injustice that's been done to you. I'm not even sure how you qualify that. I can't even think of an example, to be honest. But you have to prove that there's some injustice been done to you that would, cause the overturn of the decision, or that the sanction was like too much, which is not. Like deducting 5 points is not excessive. That's just happened to be enough for you to miss the Rugby World Cup, but it's not like an excessive punishment, so you can't appeal that decision. So that's the only 3 conditions that can be applied for appeal. And basically, after they submitted this evidence to show that, hey, we didn't know this guy changed his passport, the reply from World Rugby to deny the appeal is basically, well, you had time to propose this evidence in your initial hearing, which you didn't. So you failed to propose. It's your own fault for not providing this evidence in the initial hearing. So they're not gonna. So that's reason number 1. And the second reason is a little bit convoluted. Basically, the second evidence says that currently the player is like under investigation by the Spanish like I would say, like the Spanish, I guess, what do you call it, the immigration department, whatever, for like basically faking visa documents. That's pretty serious stuff. So basically, as a result of that, they don't want it to be involved or making a decision on something that is currently under investigation by another jurisdiction. So they don't want to come out and say, hey, it's okay, and then that would influence the decision making of like another jury. So they basically said, as a result of that as well, they're not gonna look at this again. Yeah, so the appeal was dismissed, so they didn't even get a chance to look at it. So yeah, so Spain is definitely out of the Rugby World Cup, and for the second time in a row. And finally, this just last bit, the Premiership Rugby was played last weekend, not this weekend, the week before. Leinster and Saracens, and apparently this was the historic highest viewed Premiership Rugby match ever. So yeah, rugby's doing quite well in England. That's really, really good. Something that maybe the Australian side can learn a little bit. Yeah, so rugby is definitely booming in England by the looks of things. And yeah, so that's some good news for everybody. So anyway, thanks for watching this video, guys. I do appreciate it. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys later this week for the team previews. But I do appreciate you being here. Really do appreciate your time. Thanks for watching this. Yada, yada, yada. And I'll see you guys later this week. Cheers.